Hello, hello. Happy Monday. I hope you are doing well. For all of you that I saw this past weekend at the CASE conference, it was amazing. So great to see you, connect with past colleagues and friends, meet new colleagues and friends. The sessions were so inspiring and exciting, and it was great to be in the room as real people, as we were sometimes like through email or through YouTube or through the video camera and all of those different things. So it was just so nice to be in person with so many of you. For those that I did not get to see, I hope you are having a wonderful day. I hope we get to connect in 3 dimensions with legs sometime soon. But we had a super exciting session on claims, evidence, and reasoning, and how we think about flipping the script on claims, evidence, and reasoning to put that evidence piece first to really help our students sit into that evidence and think about, explore, make sense of, think critically about that evidence. And what it reminded me of is thinking about data moves. Like, what are we actually doing when we are working with data? We got into the nitty-gritty of different strategies that we can use, that we can integrate in beyond just flipping the script for our worksheets so that we're leading with evidence and then it's the claim or reasoning, or leading with evidence and then it's reasoning and then the claim. And it was great in the room. We were about 50-50 split as to like which way we wanted to go. And the answer is it doesn't matter. Do whatever works best for you and for your students, but lead with that evidence piece first. But we're thinking and talking about a lot of like, how do we actually help our students see and identify the relevant evidence pieces? Because we had norm set on all of these common struggles that our students are having when they're working with data. And this was a common one of like, our students not really, one of the aspects was struggling with identifying what is going on in the data and how to actually really engage in the data that our students are working with. And it made me think of data moves. So I should have pulled this up before I got started. Nothing like being back from a weekend-long conference on a Monday, all of the different things. Okay, so data move as defined by Erickson, Wilkerson, Finzer, and Reichman, and all these amazing people in the field of data education. Define a data move as an action that alters a data set's content, structure, or values. So this is a great definition. This is a really tight initial definition of what a data move is. Here at Dataspire, we've actually sort of expanded out our conception of what a data move is to be yes, this, and the yes and. Okay, let's see. I was going to talk about slide 33, but let's go up here to slide 1 to explore. And wait, let me zoom in because that is just way too small to be able to see on the screen. Okay, so data moves are the steps or actions a user is taking as they are working with and making sense of data. So why does this matter? Well, it doesn't actually, do our students need to learn the term data move? No. In my opinion here at Dataspire, it doesn't matter if a student can articulate oh, I am generating questions, or I am annotating and highlighting. I mean, that's good. They can use that to describe what they're doing, but it's more important for us to think about what are the different action steps that our students are taking as they are engaging with any particular data set, data activity, data rich lesson that we might be using with our students. And we have sort of, as a way to think about, okay, so there is data, which is really big, and then there are our science and engineering practices in science, our domains in science and social studies that ground us more in the actions of what we're actually doing when we're working with data. But then there's even more, this next layer of but what actually are we doing? For example, because I was just at the CASE, the science conference, when we are analyzing and interpreting data, because those two verbs have a whole heck of a lot packed into them. And so what we could be doing when our students are, for example, interpreting data, one of the things that we would want to see is we would want to see them interpreting the data in context. Okay, so great. Interpreting data in context, that is a subset of analyzing and interpreting data. But what are we actually doing? Okay, so what this moves is we take and process information by reading what is there, internally summarizing it, sort of thinking about it inside of our heads, and comparing it to what you were expecting to see, and connecting it to other information you know. Okay, so that's the definition, like from the literature, from what researchers have identified as they are unpacking what we actually do when we work with data and how our learners make sense of it. So let's go to more sort of like all the rest of us speak. Oh, and I jumped to the next one. What would I actually be doing if I were to be interpreting data in context? Well, we would be thinking about the data, how the data were collected and shared, what was included, what's not included. Then we would consider what claim we're identifying, right? We're past the jumping into the evidence. We're getting to the claim piece, that thing that we're all trying to work towards and how we can help our students do better, that claim and reasoning. So then we'd want to consider that claim and what can we say sort of broadly from the data? How does it relate to other things that we know? What can you not say from the data? This was a really fun one that we jumped into, sort of a fun aspect of that can and cannot say strategy this past weekend while I was down at Case for our CER session. And then we've provided an example, because even that sort of more colloquial, everyday speak of like, what am I actually doing, can still feel a little like, I want to see an example of what that looks like. So let's say we have data, we've surveyed our 5th graders of their favorite Halloween candy, because it's coming, y'all. I don't know about you, but in my household, we are like up to here in the planning of all the different things for our Halloween costumes. We get really into Halloween costumes and all the things, and my kids get really into collecting all the candy because, you know, it's a Halloween thing. So Halloween's coming. So let's say we surveyed our 5th graders of what their favorite Halloween candy is. And we get back these results, okay? So what would it look like as we are interpreting data in context, interpreting our 5th grade favorite Halloween candy survey data in context? Well, who are these data from? Well, it's the 5th grade class. They're 19 students. What's the data about? Well, we asked them what their favorite candy was. What's a pattern that we notice? Well, the most commonly selected was that 4 students really like Sour Patch Kids. Okay, so that's giving us a little bit of a sense of like, okay, where are these data from? Like, what's the sort of general sense of the data? And then what else can we say or could we not say from these data? Well, it likely was a fill in the blank type of survey, not a drop down, because starburst is spelled 2 ways. So we were having students type it in. Maybe we didn't do this with our 5th grade class. Maybe our colleague did it with their 5th grade class. Or it's probably not a taste test because we can't bring in all of this candy and we can't have students taste this many candies all at one time. It doesn't tell us about the size of the candy. I mean, maybe Sour Patch Kids were picked out as the most, as 4 students ranked it as the favorite because they got those like big honking boxes of the Sour Patch Kids, okay? This is giving us a sense, both of these components, the sort of where are the data from, who's in the data, what's in the data, what's not in the data, as well as sort of like, okay, so again, like what can we say, what can we not say? That's helping us situate the context of our data. That's actually what it looks like to think about how we interpret our data in context. We have the data, we've collected it, we've looked at the visualization, or we've looked at somebody else's visualization, and we are barreling forward to make our claim from the data set in our claims, evidence, and reasoning, and pausing to think about what's the context of the data. We pause because that's going to set the claim up for more success. But that pause and what we do in the pause is the data move of thinking about how to interpret the data in context. And so data moves can be helpful as we think about like, what are the different action steps? Not make a graph, but what are the different components of making a graph? Or not collect data, but what are the different components of collecting those data and identifying which data we need and what we're going to use to explore our question as we're investigating using that data set in order to make meaning and draw conclusions, develop our claims from that evidence once we're in the evidence. So just a little bit about data moves. I'll put a link to this data move table toppers, which we've actually built out so that you can put them on the table for your students. Again, do they need to know the name of the data move? We don't think so, but it can be helpful to say, oh, maybe you should do some of this as your students are working with the data. Super curious to hear what you have to say about it. Please give us feedback. I'll also put a link to that original blog post that we did a couple falls ago after another one of our conferences, and we were hearing from folks. As always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and bye-bye.